Today, I'm going to be sending out some of my heaviest hitters from the Sword and Shield era to get graded with PSA. Now, I know I've been doing a lot of investment videos recently, so I decided that it would be the best time now to send out my cards to see what their values are at. The entire focus of this one will be sending out the EV Evolution cards from the Sword and Shield era. Started off with the heaviest hitter of them all, the Moonbreon, Umbreon VMAX Alt-Art here. This is the one that is worth the big bucks, going for around $12.50 USD for a PSA 10 and around $730 US for a PSA 9. This is the big boy. Now, what do I think this is going to get? Honestly, the front of it, it's well centered. I think it has the perfect centering on it. I don't see any surface damage or scratches on it. The only concern I have here is the little white mark on the right-hand corner here. It's very, very subtle. It's very difficult to see. And this right here may make the difference on whether this gets a 9 or a 10. Personally, I think it's going to get a 9 if they spot that. I don't think they'll miss it, to be honest with you. But it would be amazing if this came back as a PSA 10, because really there is nothing wrong with the card. It's actually almost perfect in my honest opinion. But if you want my honest, humble opinion, you'll probably get a PSA 9. Let's follow it up with the card that everyone's talking about, the Umbreon V. Now this one goes for around $340 US and a PSA 10. And if it were to get a 9, it would be about $165. So it's not a major difference, I mean, in comparison to the Moonbreon. So again, it's almost double the difference in price depending on what grade it gets. Personally, it is a bit off center. As you can see here, this side is a little bit thicker than the right-hand side. I think if I'm being honest, this would probably also get a PSA 9. The back of it is pretty clean. There isn't much going on here, but again, a little bit off center as well. We will see what happens with this one, but I'm thinking a PSA 9. Can't do Umbreon without the Espeon. Here's an Espeon VMAX Alt-Art. Now, this one over here is well centered. You can tell that the centering on it is perfect. It's not really off anywhere. I'm looking at the back here as well. There isn't really any whiting in any other corners, so it has a chance at a PSA 10, going for around $340-ish for a PSA 10 and around $160 for a PSA 9. Again, a 9 would still not be too bad, but I'm hoping to get a 10 on this one as it's super clean and there are no issues with the corners as well. Next up is Espeon V. Again, with this one over here, we have a little bit of a centering issue on the right-hand side. So of course, I've pulled this one and there is no surface scratches or anything like that. Looking at the back of it over here, it looks pretty clean as well, so it may get a 10 if we're lucky with this one, but again, a little bit off centering on this one. So pricing on this one is up for a PSA 10 about $180. If it gets a PSA 9, you're looking at around $80 for this one. Next up is our boy Glaceon V Alt-Art. So this one over here is going for around $140 in a PSA 10, and a PSA 9 would be valued at around $60-ish. So again, a big difference there as well with the pricing between a 9 and a 10. This one looks really well centered. I don't see any issues with it, that is. Looking at the back of it over here, again, same thing. No surface scratches, no whiting, no marks, no dents on the corners. I think, in my honest opinion, this one, as well as the Espeon VMAX Alt-Art, would be my PSA 10 so far. So 2 votes for 10. The rest of them are currently at PSA 9s. Next up is Leafeon V. Now, you're probably wondering why I didn't speak about Glaceon VMAX Alt-Art or Leafeon VMAX. That's because I already have those graded. The Glaceon VMAX I have in a PSA 10. I was lucky with that one. Leafeon VMAX ended up getting a PSA 9. That was one of my last gradings that I did last year. So again, going on with the Leafeon V here, this one is a little bit off centering here. You can see that the right-hand side is a little bit thicker than the left. Looking at the back, again, I pulled this card, so I'm not concerned with any surface scratch or anything like that. Same issue here. You've got the thicker side over here on the centering. So probably going to get us a PSA 9 as well. PSA 10 goes for around $160 for this bad boy and around $80 for a PSA 9 for the Leafeon V. Now it's time to look at the Vaporeon VMAX Alt-Art. Now we're going to be looking at, of course, all of the promo cards that came in this series that were not included in Evolving Skies or Fusion Strike, of course. So Vaporeon VMAX was one of the promo cards that you got in one of those beautiful boxes, in the ultra premium boxes. And this one over here is well centered. I would be amazed and excited at the same time if it was to get a PSA 10, because a Vaporeon VMAX PSA 10 Alt-Art is actually worth $190 as opposed to the PSA 9, which is less than $40. Now the only concern that I really have is there's a little bit of whiting there in the top right hand corner, which may ding it back down to a PSA 9, which would be very unfortunate actually. But it is what it is. We'll send it out and we'll see what happens here with Vaporeon VMAX. Vaporeon V Altart. Now this one, of course, is off-centering, so it probably won't get a PSA 10. If it were to get a PSA 10, though, it would be worth about $200 US. And if it were to get a PSA 9, it would be worth about $30, which is quite insane. It's clean on the back, actually perfectly centered on the back, as opposed to the front here was cut pretty poorly, but again, I think it would get a PSA 9. Moving into the Fire Zone, again, Flareon VMAX over here, a little bit off-centered as well. PSA 10 will land you about $150, whereas a PSA 9 would probably get you around a $30 to $40 card. Pretty well centered on the back, unfortunately. They did a great job with centering the back of these cards, just not a great job with centering the front of them. Flareon V, honestly, I don't even want to send this one to get graded because it's just way off-centering as well. A PSA 10 would probably land you around a $200 card, but a PSA 9 would turn this into around a $30 or $40 card. So unfortunately, I think this is also going to get a PSA 9. Looking at the back here, again, better centering, but still actually off. This is probably the worst one out of all of the evolutions that I've looked at so far. Next up is Jolteon VMAX. So this one is a PSA 9, I'm going to say. A little bit better on the centering, but still a little bit off over here. We're going to see what happens with this one. I'm looking at the back here. Again, a little bit better centering, a little bit of whiting on the left-hand corner here. But other than that, it's a pretty clean card as well. Probably going to get me a PSA 9. And last but not least is a Jolteon Jolt V. This is also the alt art promo that you got in one of those premium boxes, just like the other ones, the Flareons and the Vaporeons, as I mentioned earlier. Again, off centering, probably going to get me a PSA 9. Really doesn't matter here with the back. The backs are clean, but you can tell here, again, off centering once again. And just to wrap this one up here, so we did get Leafeon VMAX already graded in a PSA 9. We have Sylveon V in a PSA 9. We have Sylveon VMAX in a PSA 9. And last but not least, we have Glaceon VMAX in a PSA 10. So I'm really excited to get all of these graded because I have a frame that I'm going to put them all into, and I'll share it with all of you once I get it back. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, these are the cards that I'm sending to get graded with PSA. I'm hoping to get some 10s, but we're probably going to get a lot of PSA 9s. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.